Let's give them something to talk about. I see the energy running out. I got a planet to run around. Okay.
Put that banner picture back up.
Boom.
Dude, how old were you? 19?
Dude, I think that was when I first started, and I had my wife take that picture somewhere. That's actually in Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
Believe
wow.
that. Just
Wow.
a random corner. I was like,
Oh.
hey, I need some
Really?
I need some headshots for
She did
my,
a great job.
I know.
Yeah.
Headshots for my business. So
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
great.
probably I don't know, mid-20s.
Yeah.
Wow. How old are you now?
33.
Okay, 33.
Too old.
But it is time for some new headshots.
Yes.
'Cause
Yes.
I noticed like I went online to look for pictures and stuff,
Yeah.
you know, because that's what I do. I'll do Google searches or ChatGPT searches now for you, and that picture came up most often because that's on your website. I'm not saying it's not a bad picture. You're a beautiful man.
Oh,
It's just
thank
10
you.
years
Yeah.
late.
Well, that's what I want them to think, you know. And they come in and they see a little scruff, and I was like, hey, he's been a
Yeah.
business owner for 6 years now.
All right.
It's taking a toll. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's great. Like, and you got like, in terms of like a doctor that you want working on you, you're the guy. Like you're super fit. You look really fit. You're handsome, man. You got all your hair. Like there's everything good about
There's
you.
a camera here. You're gonna make me red and blush.
That's why I turned the air
What
on.
right?
What nationality are you? Because Hinderman,
That's great. That's funny because I always say I'm a mutt to people.
Yeah.
I'm just a mix. Majority Chinese, and then my dad Italian, just European. We call it
Okay.
that, German, all that stuff.
Oh,
But
right
I do
on.
get times where they see Hinderman, and then I kind of walk in the room,
Yeah,
and then people will be like, "Whoa."
yeah,
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I just wasn't expecting you to come in.
yep.
But I like
great.
it. It's cool.
That's
It's
even
cool.
better.
Yeah, it's even better.
No,
Yeah.
Craig Howard. I walk in the room. They're like, oh yeah, that's what I
Oh,
thought. I saw a great. Someone sent me. Well, multiple people sent me that meme that floated around that said, "Are there really any children named Craig? Or do you just get that name when you turn 30?"
All right,
That's a really good point.
It was a really good point.
I can't think of anybody. I don't think I've ever known anybody named Craig that wasn't an adult already.
Right.
That's crazy because my wife and I actually play a game sometimes, and it's just like names you don't name your
Yeah.
kids anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, Craig, that might be.
Yeah,
That
that
might
is
come
at
up
the top of the
that might
list
come up
right
with a
now.
I know. Yep.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
sir.
funny.
Michael, you're still in there. There's still some Michaels that'll show up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be in there a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie's good too. I think you're good for a little while.
Yeah, that I mean, that one fits all.
I'm a
Yeah.
lost generation. Well, hey, great to have you on. This is our third attempt at doing this, and I keep committing to getting this podcast reinvigorated and re-going, and it's mostly just we went through the whole competition season, and we get buried. Our priority is Diablo CrossFit. Our priority is our community, and all other things we're doing here. And unfortunately, the podcast takes a second seat to that. But I'm excited. There's some really cool topics to talk about.
Mhm.
We have some. Every time I meet an amazing member in our community, I'm like, "You do what?
Yeah.
You did what? You lost this? You've gained that? Like it." And every time I'm like, "I need to have you on the podcast." I started accumulating this list, and Mike's one of them that for a while I've wanted to have on the podcast. So thanks for
Appreciate
coming
that.
today.
Yeah.
Stoked to be here.
He's been a member with us for probably, I want to say 7 years, 6 years,
Probably like 5-6 years or so.
5-6 years.
Mhm.
And then and which is great. And he's passionate about CrossFit and Diablo CrossFit. He also works on a lot of our members, and has worked on me before.
Me too.
And I'm a reluctant doctor goer of any type.
Especially when it comes to mobility.
To be honest, I don't blame you. I don't blame. There's a lot of those people.
It's just I'm just one of those things, and I will suffer forever. And so I was thinking about it. I told him, I got to come talk to you about my shoulder because my shoulder's bothering me now. And then I've talked to a lot of people recently in our gym and elsewhere who are dealing with shoulder issues. And I think some of it is, and Jamie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Michael, you correct me if I'm wrong. But some of it is, I think, as if you know people that are active in sports, whether it's they're playing recreational basketball, even pickleball, maybe, is CrossFit, because look, it's no matter what you say about it, it's aggressive, or weightlifting.
It's demanding.
If anybody's doing bodybuilding, weightlifting,
Mhm.
strongman stuff, anybody's doing any type of gymnastic stuff, baseball players, softball players, their shoulder issues, because we have an aging population in general, because the average age is raising in this country, you're going to get more shoulder issues.
Yeah.
Is that something are you seeing more of that in your practice now versus what you used to see, say 3-4 years ago?
I would say it's always been a common thing, but definitely been, more and more reoccurring. That's a question I get all the time where it's like, okay, are you seeing low backs? You're a chiropractor. Is that all you see? And it's like,
Right.
to be honest, shoulders, knees.
Yeah.
are
Interesting.
like a huge
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
More
shoulders and
so. That's interesting right there. Cause that's
Yeah.
is true. I used to think that. Everybody used to think that.
Yeah.
That was what they said. Oh, you chiropractors make money off your back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, there might still be some out there.
Yeah. But most of your stuff is the joints, right?
Yeah. I think it's shoulders are a common thing.
Yeah.
Like we specialize in the active population, right?
Right.
So especially CrossFitters, weightlifters, barbell athletes,
Right.
for a lot of that. And so you're gonna see it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's high intensity, repetitive movement. So
It's one of the things we forget about too, that, and I talk to members about it when especially wrists, right?
Mhm.
Wrists, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows, but wrists and elbows and shoulders take a lot, because we're doing, whether you're doing push-ups,
Yep.
you're doing burpees, and then if you're hanging from a barbell or hanging from a pull-up bar and doing any type of pulling motion, that's all right. Wrist, shoulder,
work your way up the
elbows.
chain there.
Right. Work
Yeah.
just, and almost, and when you start with CrossFit or literally any type of, functional fitness program, all of those things are going to get it worked. And the problem is with most people is they can do those things. So even if you got a little bit of fitness, you can do those movements, even if you scale them.
Yeah.
And so you go from 0, a lot of people go from 0 to 100, like instantly go right into moving those things a lot.
Yep.
And you feel the soreness.
I think it also
So-
too comes down to like a lot of postural issues too, right? I mean, like we live in this world where everything's in front of us. So, going from maybe the desk and you're just trying something new, or maybe you've already kind of had maybe slept funny on it. And
If you had that thing before,
yeah,
there's not a lot of common predictors of injury,
Mhm.
but one really good one is if you've had that injury before.
yeah,
We know that it's
There's a
more likely-
pre-existing thing,
exactly.
yeah.
If it's pre-existing, it's more likely to happen
Mhm.
again because you had that before.
yeah.
There's not that many things that you could predict injury with, but if you've had that before,
Mhm.
Is
could
that
happen again.
because of things like scar tissue, or is it movement patterns? Is it
I would say mostly we find it is a movement pattern. So
Right.
I was thinking about this before I came in, and a general equation, if you had to think about it, is when your load on your joints and your tissues are greater than the capacity of them, you're more likely to be injured.
Yep.
So the intensity, the volume that you're putting on there, if you're not used to it and you're not gradually exposing yourself to those movements, you're more likely to get
Yeah.
injured than
That
not.
weak link is going to be the thing that goes.
Exactly. And it's not the first time you usually do maybe a movement pattern kind of quote unquote wrong or kind of
Mhm.
different, right? Or not how you're supposed to, but it's usually adds up over time.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you've ran into that where it's like, oh, I don't know what I did to hurt myself,
Mhm.
right? Like I didn't do anything different. And it's like that adds up over time.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden your body's just like, well, here you go. Here's pain.
Like that compounding effect, and just be
Exactly.
like, and you're going to pay for
And
it.
on the other side, I like to say pain is knowledge really fast.
yeah.
right? So
I
it's like
love that.
if you're doing something, and I'm not going to
Immediate
coin that term,
feedback, yeah.
I got that from somebody else, but pain is knowledge really fast. It's like if you're doing something, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like if you have pain, I mean damage,
Yeah.
right? But it's like, hey, your body's just telling you something's going on. We got to get this figured out,
Mhm.
right? So it's like you just got to listen to that.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing.
When so you've got experience, well, you're educated as a chiropractor.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, when I went to see him, I didn't get adjusted. Weird. Yeah.
Weird.
And he does
Didn't that make you happy?
kind of
You don't grip it and rip it.
Snap, crackle, pop.
Kinda.
Yeah.
But you're what I really like about what you do is one, focusing on improving movement patterns,
Yep.
and then the physical therapy for rehabilitation.
Mhm.
And then the some of the ART work as well
Yeah.
that you do to try and improve movement in the joint, pain-free movement within the joint.
Mhm.
And how is that something when you started your business? Did you first of all, did you work under someone else first and then move out and on your own?
No, I started from zero.
Did you?
Now I'm in an
Wow.
office right now, right? I
Yeah.
share space with one of my.
So
my
you've
mentors.
always been subleasing from.
I've been
okay.
from over there, and so I started from zero. I think my first patient was my now father-in-law that came in and trusted me, with his health. But other than that, it was just zero. Started from nothing. I think I have a picture that I'll post somewhere where it's my first gym event. I think it was at another, we'll call it a Globo gym in Concord over here. And I woke up in the morning. I was like, oh, I have an event to do. My wife's like, okay, well, do you have anything for a table? I was like, no. So I have this fold up table. I have like a tablecloth I think I got from Walmart.
Yeah.
And then it's a picture of just a printed piece of paper with my logo on it that I taped to the front of it. And it's just like, all right, I'm here.
Well done,
That's all I
man.
can do.
That's it. That's how you start.
That's how you just get started. Yeah, no, definitely.
Exactly the same way we do.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
I think about that location.
Karma
we had over
jar.
at Main. No, well, the Karma jar won, but I think about the door at that office building we had. And Jeremy took a piece of cardboard and he cut a logo.
There it is.
Did he use it as a stencil?
Yeah, he used it as a stencil spray. And what the best was, like, it was sprayed on there. You could tell it was like a cardboard logo, but then the overspray on the edges.
Yeah.
And I was bummed out. Actually, went there not too long ago, and they had painted over it. But but that's how you get started. Yeah, that's what you do. And so when people come see you now, is that usually are you prescribing physical therapy? Are you do you have an assessment so let's talk specifically about shoulder injury, right? Someone comes into, say, a 62-year-old man that does CrossFit periodically and has shoulder pain on the front of his shoulder that might have come from trying to hang power cleans too quickly or too heavily,
without mobilizing on a regular basis.
What would be the protocols that you would use when that gentleman came into your office?
Yeah, so I mean, it really starts with the assessment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's so many places where even say like your GP, like sometimes you go in there, they'll be like, all right, I got shoulder pain. And you go in, they'll have you move around, range of motion, do a couple ortho tests, make sure you're not dying. Right. And they're like, okay, don't do anything, rest on the couch for a little bit.
And they pull out the script and let me sign you.
And then
here's something for pain.
Right. They just want to make sure that you're going to live the next day.
Yeah.
And that your arm's going to stay attached to you, basically.
And that's, there's some criticism that we can make some criticisms there. Yeah. Right. But that is one, first of all, they're overwhelmed. Right. So
of course,
there's just a ton of people going to doctors now for myriad things. And that's kind of a fast track, right?
Yep.
Rest till it goes away.
Yeah.
Maybe some pain meds to make you comfortable to sleep at night. And then hopefully in 3-4 weeks, I won't see this guy again. Resting it will have worked. And in some cases, I'm sure it will.
Does, yeah.
Right.
And I think it's one of those things where it's like you said, it's the system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
it's the thing. Yeah. It's like they can't do anything too much about it. I got to go on to the next person. I got 5 people in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If this guy's serious, if he has more pain, he'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. And then
begging me for an MRI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
X-ray first, then MRI.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes. X-ray first.
X-ray first. X-ray first.
But so it's one of those things to get back to your question where it's like, okay, we tend to see the people that are in that boat, right? I'll tell you around 5 things we usually see people with is like they've been to their GP, right? So they've tried, let's go ibuprofen, right? That's usually prescribed. They've been to like a traditional chiro or PT. When I say traditional, it's chiro. It's like lay down, crack you, see you later, right? See you 3 times a week, whatever it is. Traditional PT is like there's tons of people, same thing, system, right? Tons of people, it's not their fault. You're getting an assistant, whatever it is. And then they've either tried maybe an injection, cortisone injection. They've tried rest. And last but not least, YouTube exercises.
Yeah.
But okay, rest my case there. But from there, when you're coming in, the assessment's the biggest thing. One, just to have that time. Like when I run my own business, it's like I allow myself that time to kind of just sit down with you. And like run you through that. And the first thing I ask is like, what's your normal week of activity look like? Because half the time you need to audit your activity.
Yeah.
Right. If you just take yourself back, take a step back and be like, hey, how many times are you working out? Sometimes I'll get people in, okay, I'm doing CrossFit, but I'm also training for a marathon. And then at the same time, I want to do a Spartan race. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's just, you know.
I have classes full of those people at this gym.
but then you wonder, it's
all
like,
these names are popping into my head right now that I'm thinking about, right?
Forward them this
and
podcast.
it's not necessarily like a bad thing.
Nancy Shannon,
right?
we're talking to you.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's what it is, right? And that's what I'm saying. But it's just like we might not have the capacity yet to do that stuff. Because a lot of the time it's like we see something cool, we sign up for it, we're like, all right, let's go. And we don't gradually expose ourselves some more. But back to what you were saying, Craig, the assessment is like you have to assess the full body, right? We call that like we have to find the root cause of what's actually going on in the first place. Like if you didn't know, for all those people out there, like, what's quick anatomy lesson here, right? When you're talking about the shoulder, we have our little upper arm, ball and socket, right? But then we have your shoulder blade, your scapula, the rib cage, the collarbone, and then nonetheless your thoracic spine. We can add that in there too. Right. So when people are like, oh, my shoulder hurts in the front, and you go to someone, they're just poking at the front of your shoulder, let me beat up the pec a little bit and get in there. Right. It's like, cool. It might feel good for a little bit, but then you go back out there, try to hit some pull-ups, a snatch, whatever it is. And you're like, oh shit,
pain comes right back. Yeah.
And you end up in this cycle, right? You're like, I'm gonna take some days off. It feels good. I go back out. Oh, it hurts again. I'm gonna take some more days off. Right. And we get into that. So we have to find the root cause of what's going on in the first place. And that's like, if you're throwing up a snatch, but say like your hips, you can't sink into your squat. Well, shoot. That could be an issue there, right? Or is it just a shoulder stability thing? Or is it just something that you can cue just to have them like, you know, elevate their heels a little bit and boom, oh, your shoulder feels better. But you're not going to find that out if you don't assess. Yeah. But if you just come in and kind of treat everybody in that cookie cutter system where it's like, hey, your shoulder hurts, I know the fix for this. Boom, boom, boom. Hopefully that makes sense from there. But it's just, you have to assess everything to get to the root cause. And that's how you get that long-term result that you're looking for.
And you kind of commented on it too, like when the time you spend to sit down, you're actually exploring what it is that they want to be able to come back to, right?
I think that's huge.
That's got to be like the big star that that client is going to be looking towards to try to get better.
I think the biggest thing that we get is a couple of things with the assessment. They tell us that, and that's free for us when you come in. It's like, this is the most time my doctor has ever spent with me. Yeah. And this is free. You know, it's like we just get to hang out and kind of just like talk about what you've been going through and what you're trying to get back to. Yeah. Right. And that's the goal. My goal is not to just get you like pain free, because that's one thing. And you could do a lot of things to get the pain down. Right. I think that's huge. Medication. I kind of joke around, wine, whiskey, whatever it is, like to get that pain level down, but to actually have that long-term result and get back to getting underneath the bar, squatting and stuff like
hanging
that.
From something,
hanging from a bar, hitting a muscle up, that type of stuff.
That process for assessment for you, and what are you looking for in the assessment? And there are you know, well, let me ask a question a little bit differently. Someone comes in, does an assessment, and you feel or sense or know that it's something more severe than, say, your office is capable of managing. How often do you see that? And then what do you do in those situations?
So just through our process really quick, we always start with a phone call. Like have a conversation on the phone with you. I just want to make sure that, you know, we can even get started, or like you're in the right place, or I'm what you're looking for, and if you're a good fit for what we do. Right. Assuming that it is, we come in for the assessment and we're going through. And if you come in, say, if your arm's just hanging down, we're having like numbness, weakness, that might be something where it's like, okay, we can still see you, but let's go get that, you know, checked out by someone else first, just to make sure. Like if there's any red flags in there. Something. Yeah, I've had anything like not necessarily shoulder related, but it's like heaviness in the chest. Like I have, you know, trouble like shortness of breath, that type of stuff. It's like, okay, we're in the wrong place right
beyond the skeletal structure.
Exactly. It's like one of those things where it's like, okay, we're in the wrong place, but let's get you called and like, let's go get this checked out. Right. One of those things. But we find through different testing, things like that, okay, if this is out of our hands here, like let's go get some imaging on that, or let's just make sure. But a lot of the times we're able to do things barring like trauma, you got hit by a car or something like that. We could, you know, at least start without imaging, where so many people are used to coming to the chiropractor and it's like x-rays right away. Right. And it's like, okay, if, you know, that's awesome. We don't really need that.
Right. Yeah. Right. I couple of weeks ago a week ago I was talking to Ernie. Ernie
PT.
Yeah, what Ernie what's his last name?
I can't remember.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ernie Rodriguez.
Yeah, you're good at that.
Sorry,
Sorry, Ernie.
part of the job.
Sorry. Ernie. Anyway, so and he was telling me, he goes, huh? And I said, I have pain. Like I can't, if I get to here, I can't go much higher than this. If I come here, it's like I can feel it. And he goes, okay, huh? Have you had an X-ray or MRI? I go, no, not yet. He goes, okay. And he goes, well, let me. And he stands behind me, and he takes his hand, and he puts it on my shoulder, and he presses down on my shoulder, and he holds me at the, kind of stabilizes himself, and he presses down kind of firmly on my shoulder. He goes, okay, now try and raise your arm. And I went, and it shot up, and he's like, oh, labrum.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That quick? First of all, I was like, when I went up, I'm like, you fixed it. Like,
Just stay there. Just stay there. Just hold it. Just hold it.
Dude, I literally thought that he cracked something in place. That's what my first thought was. Oh, you're a miracle worker. Yeah. Just a touch. And he goes, no. He goes, what happens when your labrum's partially torn, the shoulder path is gets out of placement. It doesn't get held down in the proper placement. And he goes, then there's friction. And he goes, and with the pain you feel is probably that friction that's occurring. I'm like, oh, damn. He
the old labrum.
Yeah. And so specifically getting to the labrum, why is, when you see shoulder injuries, is labrum the big one?
That tends to be a big one, or commonly diagnosed if they saw a doctor before. It's like, okay, rotator cuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a lot of muscles too. Like where in the rotator cuff?
It's not very specific.
And that's why we have to look. So muscles don't usually work in isolation either, right? They kind of all work together. So that's why we look at the movement pattern and the movement of your shoulder, because we don't have MRI vision. Like we can make an educated guess based on tests that we do. Yeah. Right. But we have to look at the movement. Okay, you can't lift your arm over your head. Well, let me see how everything else is working. Oh, your scapula is glued down to your rib cage. Okay, well, like we were talking about before, Jamie, before this, it's like, I think we all maybe have labral issues in here one way or another. I think we all have them. We've all had shoulder issues. And the goal is, it's like, it's not a sentence to surgery every single time you hear labrum, right? And what we were talking before, it's like, if you can outfunction your bad structure, like that's a thing. Bad structure meaning like, hey, cool, I have, there's frayed labrum, torn labrum, whatever it is. But can you make sure your rib cage, your thoracic spine, your shoulder blades, everything's working well around it? And that tends to take stress off that area, right? And so that's what we try to do while keeping people out of surgery. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a time and place for surgery, right? It's like, we're not going to knock surgery at all. But if we can make everything function well, a lot of the times, just like all of us here, we can get it done and the pain will, subside at some point when everything's functioning. If function returns, right?
I listened to a Peter Attia podcast that he did. It was an excellent podcast. I wish I remember the name. I'd have to look it up. But he did it with it was a shoulder, elbow, and wrist doctor.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Out of Stanford.
Okay.
Great guy. And those are the three areas that he focuses on, and he went through each kind of section, but they spent most of the time. He goes, we're going to spend most of the time on the shoulder because they're going to get most of the action. And it was really fascinating, first of all, though, to hear more about the shoulder, how it's it's an unstable joint, right?
The old golf ball on the tee, right?
Yeah,
that's what they say.
Yeah, it's golf ball on tee. But what was one of the things he said, after breaking it down, he said, look, if you have shoulder pain, or you have an issue with your shoulder, he goes, first, go see someone that knows, physical therapy and knows how to treat the pain first, and go through that. He went through a long process. So go through that process before you even get an MRI. He goes, because if you're over the age of 40 and you get an MRI, you are going to see something in that MRI.
And we get that asked like all the time. Should I get imaging? Should I get imaging? And I'm not going to tell someone no. But I always say, if you go looking for something,
you're going to find.
You're probably going to find it.
That's what he said.
And if anything, it kind of F's you up like mentally
Yeah.
too,
Yes.
right? It's like now you're just thinking like, oh, I got a disc
Yeah.
thing going on, or I got a labral thing.
My
going on,
biggest
right?
concern actually turns out to be true.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes people want to just find out,
Yeah.
right? Like what's going on. But usually if you go look for something, if you're active and you're pushing yourself, you're gonna find something.
And he said it's usually stuff that is cumulative from since we were kids. If you're playing sports and you took a hard fall when you were a kid, or playing baseball, sliding into second base, or whatever it is, he goes, like there's probably some scar tissue there, maybe partial tears, maybe but so avoid that, as that's like the last resort. Try everything else first. It was really fascinating because I was like, oh man, instantly people want to go get an MRI.
Yeah, I think that's just what we're trained to do. It's like, oh, I gotta get an image.
Yeah,
I gotta check out and see what's going on. People, don't get me wrong, like people like to attach themselves to that too. It's like, well, I'm the disc person. Like I got a disc thing going on. That's why I can't do this, right? And unfortunately, that's just kind of how we're brought up. Unfortunately,
the labrum's in front, and it runs from the top of the shoulder down. Does it connect to the bicep?
So long head of the bicep, so it runs on the inside, like top of the socket a little bit, right? And that long head of the bicep, 2 parts of the bicep, right, and attaches into that labrum.
Okay.
So that's why it's like, if we're having labral issues, sometimes I'm like, hey, do some bicep curls. Do like strengthen that up, stabilize the front of the shoulder like a little bit, and that's why we prescribe that sometimes. And just little things like that. Or
I'll pull up a picture.
Yeah, you got the picture right there.
Yeah, that's interesting. So interestingly enough, because of my shoulder limitations that I have now, I have been doing bodybuilding movements, tricep extensions, and bicep curls. And it is, and admittedly, and this is just because those are what I could do, and I don't want to lose my t-shirt pump.
No, of course. Hey, summer's coming. Summer's coming.
Summer's coming. I was counting on CrossFit to keep me in that shape. If I don't got that, I got to do a little bit of bodybuilding stuff. But my shoulders got a little better.
Yep.
Like I have better range of motion. Like I can do, I can feel it right now.
Okay.
But it's not. I don't have to wince when I do this, and I can get to here. Now, if you gave me a 10-pound weight, I could not do that with a 10-pound weight yet. But I'm glad you say that. Bicep curls.
It's an excuse to do bicep curls.
Yeah.
Right? People make but you have to think about it from, just from how our body is.
Yep.
What crosses the front and back of the shoulder? Many things, but the biceps and the triceps are a part of that.
So so now, and this is Jamie, something I want to talk to you about. That labrum. Well, let's talk. Let me go to scapula first, and then
let's do it.
Or the is it, what do they call that? Is it tear in the back? Is it there's the labrum, and then if you tear in the
kind of like a slap.
Yeah. Yes.
So slap is the anterior to posterior.
Yep. Yeah. Anterior to posterior.
Yeah. That's what I have.
Yeah. Do you have that diagram you can pull up, Jamie?
Here, I'll pull up this slap tear right here. I'm just going off of Google Images here, so I'll try to zoom in on it.
There you go.
So yeah, that's the slap tear. So basically,
okay, wait. So but that's in front too.
So it's anterior to posterior, going underneath what the long head bicep tendon.
Yeah, so you can see right there.
So this is the long head bicep tendon.
Right above it.
Yeah.
So super common when we get that like shoulder starting to creep up, into that top. And so it's like every time, if our movement patterns and stuff like that, every time we're kipping and like coming down, if we don't have stability and control of that shoulder, it's just starting to jam up into the top there.
Yeah, that was so I actually went through a PT with one of my neighbors. And we did a lot of closed chain stuff, just working on developing neutral, like just kind of understanding and reminding your body where neutral is. And if you use the cue, it's basically like a cue ball just bouncing around in there. Right?
Exactly.
And the idea is you want to be able to stabilize with the surrounding structure to bring it and keep it in a neutral position so it doesn't ping off of all the other spots.
And I think that's huge. Like the one thing that gets lost is we're so obsessed with mobility all the time. Right. But stability gets lost in the mix a little bit there. So it's usually, if we go mobility, stability, strength is a big, just like 1, 2, 3 steps I like to go through, like mobility, stability, then strength. So what we talk about is, can we get in those positions?
Yeah.
Can we resist force in those
Get
positions.
in those positions pain free.
Yeah, get in those positions pain free. Resist force. So it's like, can I hold this? And then strength, can I exert the force, right? Can I like, be strong and do that stuff? So a lot of people think like, okay, I'm doing these banded exercises all that time and we're getting strength in the rotator cuff. But a lot of the times we need that stability.
Yeah.
And that's why it's be able to hold that cue ball, like you said, in the middle of that socket and be able to rotate instead of just bumping in when you get that impingement, that pinching feeling all that time. Can we keep it in the middle? Then it can move freely, right? I think that's huge.
Yeah. One of the things that I just have loved, and I've programmed it in here for like handstand stuff, is like the bear crawl wall walk and just kind of loading into a wall.
That people complimented that.
I think I've had a patient come in with their shoulder and they're just like, damn, those are freaking hard.
The wall, yeah. Dude, I was so surprised
today. But no, I think stability, it tends to be lost a little bit in there, but I think that's perfect with closed chain stuff, you know, holding on to the ground, just controlling it. A lot of people just want to be like super bendy, but can you control that range of motion is huge. And that's where we actually see pain go down. Like with Craig's shoulder, like, hey, if I actually hold your shoulder down and you move it, it actually gives your body a sense of stability. And then your brain doesn't sense pain on top of that. Because sometimes we don't have to go into pain science and all that stuff, but sometimes you'll just get pain because your body feels unstable. And once someone holds on to it, it's like, oh, it actually feels stable and I can move without pain.
Makes a lot of sense. That was one of the things he was telling me.
Fascinating.
It was just telling me as far as like the pain, because like for a while there I was doing fucking, let me try this.
Yeah, it's just kind of just like a crapshoot.
I got to a point where I was like, all right. Then I went and did the imagery and I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm actually dealing with. This is what I just assumed it was going to be. But just the concept of that pain, like once your brain is thinking about that pain, it's like that pathway is always on.
And that's what I wanted to get at too. A lot of the time when we're helping our patients through the rehab, we'll call it journey, right through the cycle here. I tell them all the time, it's like, hey, it's going to start feeling better. But half that battle, when we get you back on out to the gym floor, the golf course, whatever it is, you know, it's the mental aspect of it. It's like I'm working with someone here that, you know, shoulder pain actually, and they heard it doing a certain lift. And I told her, I was like, that's going to be a big thing, is like when you get underneath the bar, is having that confidence and not being like expecting pain. Because then it's like, even when you move your arm, like, it's like, oh, I'm just thinking about pain popping up. It's like getting that confidence to get underneath the bar, hop onto the pull-up bar, whatever it is. That's a whole nother aspect of the rehab journey there.
Going like into it without being guarded.
Exactly. It's like getting comfortable and being confident in your movement again. And that's something that I believe we do, right? It's like gradually expose yourself to those things. If it's kipping that you're afraid of because of shoulder pain, just like that. Okay. Can we do a scat pull? Cool. Can you do little kips? Can you go into like a pull-up? And then we know it's like pull up, chest to bar, and then like toes to bar is a huge kip. It's like, can we just gradually kind of expose ourselves to that? And we've got really good results as long as we're sticking to the plan there. You know, sometimes I think one of those things I was thinking about coming in is, I think check your ego out the door is like a big thing here, right? You kind of have to do the same, or you do have to do the same with your injuries. Like you have to check your ego a little bit. Like, oh, I just want to lift heavy again. I just want to get out there. It's feeling better. Here's another corner. I forget where I got it from, but it's like you feel before you heal, right? I like that. So it's like you're gonna feel better before it's actually healed. And I think that's what gets us all. It's like, I get people coming in all the time. They have a little flare up, right? Which is part of the process, by the way. Like you're gonna have flare ups. It's not butterflies and rainbows all the way up to getting better. But it's like, oh, it felt good though before I went in. And now it's kind of like 2 steps back. Which happens, but you know, you will feel before you heal. Like it's gonna feel better, especially when you're resting because you're not doing anything. Right. I think that's huge.
That's a really good point.
As I age, I need more warm up and mobility work that I hate doing. Right. And it's Yvonne's really good at it. She comes in an hour before she's here, an hour before her workouts, even if it's class where they would do warm you up. Me, I'm 5 minutes late to class.
You're coming off the computer.
Even worse, dude. The worst is when we do the coach meetings and then we work out after the coach meetings. I literally do like almost no warm up. I just thought, you know what, old school, man. You warm up. Your first set's your warm up, and that is where you're doing heavy cycling, heavy hang power cleans.
Yeah.
Which I love to do. Hang power cleans are just a fun movement for me.
Yeah.
And then it was two things. It was, one, probably not warming up well enough. And then going heavier than I should have because I was looking at, at what other people doing.
Yeah.
And I know what I've done in the before.
They can do it. Why not?
And literally in my head, I'm telling myself I cannot leave unless I cycle 165. Like once you're
do or die.
Dude, it's bad. It's like, Craig, you're a pussy.
Yeah.
If you don't do more than 155.
Yep.
So I got to do 165, and I did 165, and that was where the issue had. And I get so as interestingly enough, you wouldn't think hang power clean shoulder come up, but drive through. If you do it right through the hips, when we land here, but when you're cycling a hang power cleans, it's that rotation down.
It's even that, and I've like with my shoulder because of the labrum, like I've had it sublex during the pull.
What is
stability thing?
So it's like
Can
you explain it?
Well, so
like subluxation,
like an actual subluxation, like we're not talking traditional chiro, like
stuff.
But an actual shoulder sublux, like you're almost dislocating it, right?
Yeah.
If you sublux, it's like out of socket,
Yeah.
and it could pop back in. Some people have the instability on their shoulder.
That's
or you
what's
kind of feel
happened to me
that, like,
a lot.
Yeah, it kind of slips a little bit
because I'm kind of loose. I fall into that category of being like very hypermobile. So it's like that lack of stability, especially if I'm skipping out on a warm up, like that lack of connectivity in the tissue is just like
I think that's a huge thing. I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of times when we were talking assessment, like when we're seeing patients come through the door, a lot of the times it's like you have to assess because what's the number one thing you probably get from, I mean, it could be PT, GP, massage, I don't know, whatever, stretch. Like you got to stretch.
Yeah.
But if you come in, right, and you're like, hey, my shoulder hurts. And I'm like, oh yeah, you just need to stretch it more. But you're like, hey, dude, like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's probably not the answer. And you probably don't need to stretch more, to be honest with you. You need stability work.
Exactly.
So when we get like gymnasts, dancers, like those people come in, it's like, no, you don't. They've been told to stretch and stretch. It's like, cool, you can stretch if it like feels good, whatever.
It almost might even make the injury worse.
Exactly. Yeah, because it makes you more unstable.
That's interesting.
Right.
And that's a big one. And it's, so a lot of the drills I think that Yvonne's doing is one, she's doing some stretching, but she's doing activation. Trying to get the smaller muscles activated. And that's what happens, I think, as we age. And I've noticed it is my big muscles they'll take over and do, the 90% of the work when all the stabilization muscles are just sound asleep, right? Because they've been sitting still during the day and haven't been doing anything. And so then you get out of position, you get, and that's where you get the injury. But the stabilization stuff is, what is stabilization, Jamie, versus say stretching in terms of what you think about it for like self-programming or warming up?
So kind of going along with what Mike was saying before, like the mobility has got to be important. Like you've got to be able to get into the position,
right?
But then you need to be able to stabilize and hold that position under some kind of load. It could be holding your shoulder on the ground and somebody's maybe articulating your arm and you've got to stabilize and hold it in place. When we're snatching a barbell overhead, we need to be able to stabilize that bar in the right spot. So that way, when we do go to squat, we're not folding and then collapsing forward at the shoulders. So, kind of going back to what Mike was saying, as far as like your scapula being able to move freely to help stabilize into the right position, that is important, right? Like, crossover symmetry, for an example, is like an activation for a lot of those stabilizing muscles, right? So that crossover symmetry activation drill or sequence has been one of my go-tos until a while ago. I kind of stopped using it, and then what do you know? My fucking shoulder goes out.
Right.
But I think that's one of those things too, and I can go on a rant a little bit about this. But
the
whole scapula shoulder blade thing.
Yes.
It's like, here's a PSA. It's like, let them move. Let your shoulder blades move on your rib cage. Like we've been taught just like shoulders back and down like the whole time. And if I'm going up with my shoulders back and down right now, this is as far as I can go without actually having my shoulder blade move. So a lot of times when we're getting patients or athletes like in here, right, and coming in, it's like, hey, well, actually you have impingement on your shoulder. Well, I'll literally grab their shoulder blade and move it with it. And it's like, oh, it feels better. Right?
Less restricted.
Exactly. That pinching goes away a lot of the time. And it's just like, so doing more movements with scapular movement, right? Like in there, like the crossover symmetry and all that. But then if they're wondering about shoulder stability exercises, like you said, it could be as simple as holding a high plank, like in a push-up position. Like, can you just hold that all the way to your bottom,
isometrics and things
all the way
like
up to your like bottom up press and like all that stuff from there.
Rotator cuff is another one that I've heard that people have said, I tore my rotator cuff.
Yep.
Rob Nolan said he tore his rotator cuff.
Oh,
there's somebody else in here that I think has
sorry, Rob.
Yeah. And that's the big one up on top, right?
So four muscles, right?
It's four,
and the rotator
okay.
cuff. Yeah.
All right.
So he's like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
looking to you. You explain this.
Here, let me show you this.
Yeah, you can pull it up on here.
I love this.
Oh,
guy
yeah.
here.
These are good.
Yeah.
These are good. This guy, BTPT. But this is just fascinating as hell to me.
Okay.
Like
This is what, 3 of the 4?
So yeah, it's 3 of the 4, right?
Yeah.
Superstinatus.
There you go.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
So
I was like, I can't see
you
it,
can't
but-
see it.
Oh, you can't. Oh,
I
sorry.
know you're looking at something good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Tears.
subscap, right on the front of that shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Supraspinatus on the top. It's common torn over there. Infraspinatus and teres minor on
So
back.
the rotator cuff is 4 different things.
Yeah,
So when he says he's torn his rotator cuff, maybe he's not torn his rotator cuff. Maybe
I mean, it could be one of the muscles.
Could be one of the muscles.
One of
Okay,
the muscles.
One of the
Yeah,
muscles.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because if you imagine, like, if that one muscle's not working and they're supposed to work together
Yeah.
in synergy, then if one's out, then there's going to be some kind of compensation somewhere.
Yeah,
along
and
the
I think
way.
this is one of those things where, like we said, we end up doing banded rotations,
Yeah.
a lot of those things, and that seems to be just almost like the end all be all of like strengthening our rotator cuff. And I would say, on the contrary, the rotator cuff is actually its main job is to stabilize the shoulder in that joint. Right. So you're not over here doing banded like rotations, trying to get just jacked rotator cuff. Right. Like we're not doing that for weight. Like you're not trying to like get heavier and heavier on that necessarily. But you want to, like, if you're on a lower level, you're coming back, you're rehabbing from, a tear or something like that. Cool. By all means do that. But I think you have to go into those stability exercises after you do some of those things to reinforce that as their primary job is to stabilize that ball and socket, like in the joint.
Yeah.
Then your lats, your pecs, and all that stuff can be used to actually exert the force.
Generate the force.
Generate
Yeah,
the force and be
and
strong.
I think that's the thing that surprised me the most is the pain is not necessarily the actual injury site itself. It's the path of travel after the injury. And that's fascinating to me.
And that's one of the reasons why you can't just go chasing like where the pain is at.
Right.
So it's like, hey, it hurts in the front of my front of the shoulder. It's like, okay, well, this could be bicep tendon, this could be labrum, this could be rotator cuff. It's like, okay, there's so many things that could be going on there.
I've always said it's like it's the victim that screams, not necessarily the culprit.
Yep.
Right. Just because it hurts right here, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It could be the lack of strength or stability elsewhere throughout the rest of the system.
And I think that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we go back to finding the root cause of what's actually happening through your assessment, through your movement, and all those things. And typically, it's like when it's a shoulder thing, it's not really the actual, we'll go shoulder, like that ball and socket joint. It's like, hey, is your scapula moving? Is your thoracic spine, can it extend and rotate? Can it do all those things?
When folks come into your office, so someone comes into your office, like me, for example, you're gonna
do 60-year-old man.
I believe it. Hey, Greg, I believe it when I see it.
Oh, there it is.
We'll work it out.
It's coming. It's coming.
Touche, man. You'll go through that protocol. Well, first of all, you do the assessment, and then you do. Because I've done this before, you'll go through kind of a series of exercises to help show me the things to do. The when I came to see you last time it was elbow related.
Yeah. Same side.
That's what I asked.
Elbow, shoulder.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
Downstream.
I mean, I've been on this guy about trying to mobilize for some time,
so
but it's okay.
But then the other thing you do is you'll set up follow-up appointments for reassessment. But then one of the things I really enjoyed was you'll like, here's the things you need to do.
Yep.
Like here, and what's unfortunately for me, what's frustrating is they're small, subtle things.
Tedious.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
They're
tedious.
teaching like
super fucking tedious.
This, you know, because I'm old school bodybuilding, you know, I'm that meme, you know.
Just put some more weight on it,
Put
rub
some-
some
yeah.
dirt on it. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Hey,
No pain, no gain. No
Hey,
pain, no
Dad,
gain.
How did
Yeah.
you recover from injuries? I went back to the gym. You know?
Fucking legend.
Legend. Fucking yeah. Yeah, that's not working. and so the stuff like, you know, some of the drills where you're twisting, you're holding and twisting and stuff and doing. And Austin, our coach Austin's real big on a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah.
And he tells me this stuff. I'm like, yeah,
Okay.
but that's the stuff we need to do.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I like about, you know, one, what you're doing is, you know, is giving people that stuff so that they can walk away and then do those things and then bring them back in for another assessment.
So I think that's the biggest thing is like those little things, we have to perfect them, right? Just little, hey, rotate it here. Okay. Like, can we just get in a better position from there? Right. But then, like we were saying before, like, hey, if you want to rub some dirt on it, load it up. Eventually we do have to load it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
find a lot of patients that come in and see us, if they've seen traditional PT, chiro, maybe they got like a booklet of, I don't know, stick figure exercises or something like that. And they're all banded. And we call that, you know, eventually, cool. That's good in the beginning. But we don't want to be stuck in what we call like rehab purgatory, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm just doing this all the time. I'm just doing this like all the time. I'm just doing my banded stuff. It's like, okay, like that's fine if you need that for a warm up. But now I want you to hold kettlebell bottom up. I want you to take a walk. I want you to do a farmer's carry with your back pain. I want you to do like that stuff because we have to introduce that. And that's that 0 to 100. If you're going from bands to snatching overhead, it's like, okay, we miss a gap like through there.
A lot,
right? Like,
actually.
there's a big gap like in between there, but because it's feeling good, like you'll go do that. And it's like, okay. Yeah. And what you're getting at too before with the assessment and all that stuff, and I'll kind of tie it all in because, you know, it's CrossFit gym and all that stuff, is that what was really cool going through my grad school and all that, I was able to get my L1, right, and coach some CrossFit at that time.
You're L1?
Yeah. Just renewed it last year or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We brought a bunch of equipment down to you back in the way day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diablo Fitness Engineering.
Yeah.
He was one of the affiliates that bought all of our rowers and stuff.
So,
you know,
oh, this is different.
We're going down a rabbit hole now.
Yeah.
Sorry to derail this conversation.
Let me just interrupt for a minute. You know, coaching is an incredibly rewarding profession. And it's a great way to meet new customers. If there's ever a thought that you had that, you know what, I would love to do some part-time coaching. I know a gym.
Yeah. Do you?
I got a gym.
We happen to be in one.
Weird.
But what I was getting at too was, you know, I was lucky to do that throughout my schooling there. Right. And of course, when you're a new coach at a gym, I feel like you get stuck with what we call like the on-ramp like classes, right? I shouldn't say stuck. That's bad.
I think that's a great way to start.
But when I say that, it's like I open the gym at 5 a.m., but then like my next on-ramp is like 7 p.m. So I'm like on both ends of that. But I was like, hey, you know, we're new.
Yep.
But what was cool was coaching people through those movement patterns and seeing how people move and being able to have that experience. And nonetheless, I was in the Silicon Valley at the time. And it's like a lot of the times you're teaching an overhead press or something to someone where English is their second language. So add that barrier on top of it. And so I think, and I'm still developing it all the time, but that coaching language and the cueing and all that stuff, that plays a huge part. And I'm thankful for that, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think that was huge. Like just being able to see people move like throughout my learning
Real
process.
world, practical.
Exactly. Right. Nonetheless, you have like, we did it with like 3 or 4 people at a time. So it's like, you're trying to, oh, have you seen a snatch before? And like, no. It's like, okay, well, let me tell you about this. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
We, you know, one of the things that I think we do successfully here at Diablo is, and it, you know, it comes from 20 years of experience. Cause I'll say in the first 5-6 years, you know, we did the whole thing, you know, it was literally just a bunch of fitness fanatics just going at it.
Oh yeah.
That first wave.
It was the first wave. But as we got, you know, and this is something Jeremy was really good about, you know, the warm-up process, the mobility process, and the preparation for movement. And so that's one of the things that has carried through, and Jamie Lee's even more so, the stability stuff, and that has helped. But yet we'll still get, and I think mostly because of egos, we still get people that end up with injuries. But I think it's imperative that CrossFit gyms And they're getting better at it. And there's certainly a lot more data, but the imperative that they spend that time with a thorough warm up, and it's boring for some members. You know, there's some members that want to start putting the weight on the bar, and it's boring going through the mobility stuff. But once you get it, when you get through it and you do that, and then you hit your lift, and you're like, oh shit,
that's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like.
I think too, just along with that, like just to piggyback on that, it's when you talk about leading through a warm up, you're actively watching people and seeing how they're moving.
Exactly. Yep.
And if they're missing something in that warm up, here what we got to do to fix it, versus some that may just slap something on the board and like, that's your warm up, let's get to it. And that's what we want to get away from.
Yeah.
That kind of practice where it's you're on your warm up on your own pace. No, warm your crew up accordingly to what they're going to be doing. And if somebody has an issue, you can catch that during that warm-up period and then come up with a plan so they can get a good workout and want to come back the next day.
I do it. I know most, if not all of our coaches do it, is that I'll take the time to walk through and check in with each person throughout the warm-up process. As we get towards the end of the warm-up process, are you feeling warm? Was that enough of a warm-up? Can we do more? Do you need more? And that's just it's just a helpful tool to make sure that
feedback
we can load them. It's good feedback.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, coaches should have intent behind their warm-up, right? It's like not just warm the body up. Yes, get the blood flowing, do all that stuff. But depending on what the movement is, like make sure it's actually tailored to what's going on. I know we do a good job of that here, but speaking to the masses, it's like have intent behind it. It's not just to kind of like go through banded stuff and banded distraction, whatever it is. But have intent behind that warm up.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a lot of injuries in the aging client base? Is that part of your client base? Like, say the 60 plus that are, like me, that are more active. Pickleball's a huge right now.
Oh yeah.
Are you getting that kind of stuff as well?
I think pickleball here and there. We work with a lot of golfers too, which is a huge aging population, right? And it's becoming more popular in the young population now too, right? And I think for that, it's like less shoulder stuff, more back, hip, knee, like that type of stuff. But
zero warm up.
Shoulders.
Unless they hit a few balls at the range.
All one-sided.
Oh yeah, dude. And it's, you're swinging a club head with momentum through,
Yeah, and especially if you go from something like I just started playing a lot more golf, but something like CrossFit and you're training, it's very like, okay, it's a little up and down sides, and you do some side to side. Try to exert force and rotation. And feel something different like there. Try to be strong, like rotating your body and force.
Right.
It's just a different feeling. So I suggest everybody like don't do it like with a heavy weight or something, but make sure you get some sort of rotation in. Just because I mean that's an everyday thing that you're gonna rotate and pick something up at some point. It's just like have that range of motion available to you, of course. But I would have to say no warm up in golf from a lot of people, but it is summer and there's a lot of people running right now.
Yes.
And for most people, I can't speak, just in general, I can't speak for everybody, but most of the time running is not a good warm up for your running.
No.
All the time.
Because a lot of times, if your mechanics are
exactly. And we're not all pro runner. I'm not a good runner by any means, but what we find is that I talk to a lot of, 5K up to a marathon or whatever it is, triathlon that we get. And it's, how do you warm up? And it's like, I run before I run. I'm like, well, shout out to you for just running a bunch, but that's cool. But at the same time, it's like, okay, what we know, if anything right now, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So it's like, if that's not same thing in the gym, if you're doing the same warm up all the time, over and over again, and we're still in pain, something has to change.
We've had about I'm gonna have to go back through this podcast and there's about like 6 or 7 of his little
I don't coin any of those terms, but I've heard it so many times that it's like, so credit to all those people. If
heard here,
if someone comes out and they're like, I said that, then I'm like, hey, cool.
That's
say your name.
Not taking any credit for that.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. But that is so true. And running, that's what I used to do with running. I just start running. And then I'd run faster.
Exactly. I could never do that.
I can't do that now. Now I can't do that. I'll walk and we
see that with a lot of I call them like our orange theorists that we see. It's like they run and it's like, how do you warm up on that side of their treadmill? It's like you jog. Like, okay, we might like before the class or something like that. We're gonna need to do like something through there. But a lot of the times I think that's it. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. Like if you're in pain right now out there or something, you've been doing the same thing, looking at YouTube videos, whatever it is. you gotta do something else.
Yeah.
Because I don't like when people come in, it's like not everyone has to work with us and we don't work with everybody. But I always ask them, it's like, okay, no problem. But like, what are you gonna do? Like, because I just want to make sure I can point you in the right direction either way.
Let's talk about someone that's a runner, right? Someone that's running 10Ks and maybe half marathons. What is in their morning runner and they get out and they literally just start jogging and they speed up as they feel better.
Yeah.
What is 1 or 2 things or 3 things that they should be doing, you think, that would make them less prone to injury?
Yeah, I think when I look at it, one, it just depends on, so if they don't have any injury at all and they're just trying to warm up, right? Because it always depends, right? Because we want to be specific to the person. But I look at hips, knees, and ankles, right? Or feet, we can call it.
Yeah.
So you do
those are all the ones that are going to take the beating.
Exactly, right? Yep. So whether it's just, hey, I'm going to warm up my hips a little bit. We call it cars, but like just controlled hip rotations, like taking your hip through its full range of motion, right? That's going to help your knees out right away. If we do need to foam roll, we can foam roll a little bit, warm up the tissue. And then a big thing right now, I think with like knees over toes guy and all that stuff, that's just good for warming up will be your tib raises. So your toe raises, your calf raises, and just warm up
taking your
joints.
ankle through range of motion.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people all the time, it's like, you just have to send your body a signal that shit's kind of it's gonna go down, right? It's like you just have to tell them like, hey, we're about to do something here, so just kind of prepare yourself for that. So it's like just going into running. Like some people might work out great, to be honest, and that's why I said just in general, a lot of us need to just warm up those joints a little bit before we just take on 5 miles at a time.
I when I'm going for a run, I start out with just some walks, and then I go through some basic like quad pull, knee hugs, like you said, taking the hip through range of motion. But I hated running and training for the games. It was like, I gotta fucking run. I spent a lot of time in a track, and I had a solid protocol that I felt really comfortable that took me through dynamic stretches into some a little bit of activation, but mostly like technique work. Right. Because I think that's one of the things that when people run and have issues, it's like a lot of mechanical issues there.
And I think it's bringing back to just like what we started with is it's the movement patterns.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I said the equation in the beginning, when load is greater than the capacity that your joints and tissues can take. If you want to dive deeper in that, it's like, why are those tissues being loaded so much in the first place? Can that load be dispersed to, instead of your shoulder, to your upper back, to your, your hip,
a more
somewhere?
efficient pattern?
Can the body be dispersed throughout the body more efficiently somewhere else? And that goes for like when you're doing CrossFit, it's like when you're doing the clean, you're not just reverse bicep. I mean, some people might be reverse bicep curling up into that, right?
Well, no, we do. That's where we get get bicep tears.
Exactly.
Heavy cleans.
Or the itises in the elbows.
The itises in the elbows. Yeah.
Not pulling from their shoulders or pulling their arms.
But I think that's for me, it's been kind of a big realization over the last 5 years is those activation drills are allowing you to use better positioning in order to move loads or move yourself through space, right? So I just kind of took it for granted, like I'm warming up just so I can have the muscles warm when they move. No. Hey, you're warming up stuff that should be holding stuff in the proper position so that you can do it more efficiently without injury.
And I think that's great. And
that's what we kind of lose sight of that. And it's hard to kind of plan for that and want to do those things, but that's it. And that's how you avoid injury.
And I think that's one, it's like the things that you don't want to do, you probably should be doing. Right. In the first place. But adding it back, I think CrossFit put out that article a while ago, right? Where it's, I don't know if this is exactly going to be it verbatim, but consistency, volume, and intensity. Right. And so if you're coming back from an injury, that's kind of the steps that we take. Can we get into this position that we need to consistently? Right. Can we do it more times?
It's mechanics first.
Mechanics.
Learn the mechanics first. Then be consistent.
Can we do it?
And
more
then
times.
Intensity.
And then add weight and speed. And so I try to draw people back from that. I was like, okay, you can squat now, or you can hinge now without pain, right? Or you can press overhead because we're talking shoulder. We can press without pain, or we can just do this. Without pain.
Just hold the position.
We can just hold this overhead position without pain. Okay, now let's put a weight in your hand. Can you do that while you're walking? Now can you press? Okay, now we can add weight, and now you can add speed on top of it. Or sometimes what I like, if you're out there and you're just looking for shoulder stability, is like, okay, can we do an overhead carry? Cool, without pain. Okay, now hop on an assault bike and sprint for 15 seconds. Now get off and try to carry it. Can you do that while you're heavy breathing now?
Under stress,
right? Under stress.
And
I think that's just good ways to have your body adapt after an injury and expose it to some of those things without just, trying to go full speed right away because you're feeling a little bit better.
Yeah.
But one thing I do know about you guys, like all the coaches are great in this gym, and I hear it all the time from people. It's like the scaling options and all that stuff. And so where we blend well with the coaches, like myself working with the athletes here, is that great. I know the coaches are going to take care of that in the class, but first you have to speak up about it in class.
That's
right?
That's one of the hardest things.
I tell some people, I'm like, did you let the coach know?
Yeah.
Right. And like, I probably should have. And it's like, okay, let the coach know first, because and then they should be able to take it from there. Right. Good coaches like be able to scale that from there. But now on the back end, whether it's an open gym during class or whatever it is, how can we take you from that scaled and gradually expose you to whether it's the RX movement or to where you were at before. And then we can start that baseline, scaling up from there.
Building back. Yeah.
Building back from there. But I think that's, having all those as a coach, I know you guys are great. It's like having those scaled movements on the back of your mind and being able to adapt people to that and then slowly build them up, because people are going to start feeling better. So same thing like rehab purgatory. I don't want to be a scaled purgatory all the time, right? Where it's like, how can we bridge that gap between I'm scaled, right? Like ring rows
all the time
to pull up. Like, how can we get in between there? Or how can I blend it a little bit to gently expose my body again back to the things that I want to do? Right. I think that's huge.
Yeah. And man, that's really good. And it's a great way to think about it, that proper mechanics is achieved through proper warm-ups, proper muscle activation, and then practicing the movement. Right. That's it. That's before you even get into moving, and then being able to do it consistently, and then doing it consistently while adding some intensity.
Exactly.
That's like, and that, so we're going through that process, I think, for our coaches, and this is something I'll hammer home at our next coaches meeting, is like, that's how, and it's going to help me reshape how I do my warm-ups too. That's how we should be thinking about our warm-ups and activation. We're trying to get everybody to that virtuosity with movement before we advance to adding the intensity, weights or speed.
And I think that's why we blend so well with like the coach and the healthcare provider, right? And bridging that gap between healthcare and fitness, right? Is that when people come to see us, they're in pain, all that stuff, and we help them rehab. I'm the last person, we say it all the time in our social media and stuff. It's like, I'm not going to tell you to stop working out. I'm the last person that's going to do that. But how can we keep working out, getting our fitness in a safe way, working with the coaches and stuff like that? I know you guys are going to do your part. And that's what's cool about Dabo, is like, I'm confident. It's like, hey, go to class, make sure you speak up though, things are happening, right? Communication's key. But then how can we bridge that gap in between there? And a lot of the times with us, with your warm up and all that stuff, it's like, I keep bringing back YouTube exercise just because it's freaking awesome, because there's so much like knowledge out there that you can look. But where we kind of chime in there is that there's so many exercises, but we help you find those exercises that work for you.
It's your situation.
In your situation. And that's the one thing that they can't do there. And then on top of that, building that back up and then handing it off to you guys to do all that stuff in class. Right. So I think that's the biggest thing. There's so much just, resources out there, but what's going to actually work for you? And so we tend to get the people like, I've searched for everything, I've tried everything. And that's just kind of a waste of time to an extent, but do your due diligence, do your time. And when we have like an hour warm up or something, hey, you got to do it. You got to do it. I get that, but I'll try to do our best, and we will be as efficient as possible. Like, I'm not trying to have you dance around on a foam roll or like for 30 minutes straight, right? It's like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. And Craig was just talking about it. It's like, hey, you're going to do this, this, and this, hop on the bar, do a light barbell thing. And then we're going to go back. We're going to do this stuff again, and then start to load up the weight on there and try to make that as efficient as possible. And I think that goes into the warm-ups too. It's like, how can we make that as efficient as possible into your lift? So it doesn't have to be such a daunting thing. Like
again, going back to the tedious aspects.
One of the interesting things that happens during the open or during semifinals is that people will, the workout will include a Metcon, a metabolic conditioning workout, before the heavy lift. And then they'll finish the Metcon, and then they have a certain amount of time to rest and go and do the lift. And they hit the lift, and these guys, they'll PR. Like we see it almost anytime they do those combinations, we see people PR. And it's, I've seen it in competitions as well. And people, and the athletes usually are just shocked. Like, I was completely exhausted. Like, I had spent everything.
Yeah.
But what they had done is they had warmed everything up
I think that's what-
deeply and
Was
intensely.
it 2 years ago when I was in the, like, I PR'd my thrust? I think it was like 245
Oh, with
on the
the
thrust.
shuttle run.
Yeah, the
pull-up
shuttle
bar.
run. Yeah, I was like, oh, I can do this.
Right.
Or it's like I have a belt on. I'm like, whoa. This is-
but you know, certainly there's an adrenaline factor, but I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of it is you are fully deeply activated, and
Yeah.
you would most of us would never do that amount of warm up,
No.
Mhm.
you know, prior to hitting something like that lift. But it really speaks to the benefit of being fully activated.
Mhm.
I don't even like to say fully warm anymore. It's like fully activated.
Mhm.
Everything's ready to go,
Engaged.
engaged, and
Yeah.
and you know, there's a neurological connection to everything to turn it on
Mhm.
when it needs to be turned on. That's awesome. Where can people get a hold of you and find you, Mike?
Yeah, I think the best spot to find us is at MD Sport and Spine. So the company's Mount Diablo Sport and Spine, but at MD Sport and Spine is our Instagram.
Okay.
Follow us on there and feel free to shoot us a DM.
Sorry, I should have
with
put that on
any
your thing.
question. No, you're good.
Can you put it on his thing?
Yeah. Oh, I thought I had something on there.
I think you tagged me on Instagram with it. But
Yeah. No, but like your name on I'm looking at on this thing. It should have had your name right there.
But at MD Sport and Spine, give us a follow. And please, whether you're at Diablo or wherever you're at, like, I don't mind if I'm working out here, which I do work out here, by the way, you guys. Work out here and stop me if you got a question. Even if I look half asleep, it's fine. It's usually early in the morning.
Usually
But
early,
yeah, but stop me, whatever. I'm always down to talk, and I'm willing to help either way I can. Whether you're a
Yeah.
patient of mine or not, it's like we're just gonna try to help.
No, there's a lot of members that already trust this guy, and
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. So that's it's awesome. It's awesome to have you within the community. The fact that you're level 1 certified and you know and understand the sport of fitness is outstanding as well. So
Also part of that medical society, CrossFit Medical.
oh yeah,
Society.
did you?
yeah, there's a good plug.
Yeah.
There's a good plug.
Yeah.
And if any medical professionals at Diablo CrossFit, please get signed up. I need to get more people signed up for that medical society, so that, you know, if you go on to CrossFit Medical Society and you're looking for someone that can do what Mike does, he'll show up.
Yeah.
Right. Which is cool.
You'll see that picture of me when I'm like 25 years old.
Yeah.
That's my go-to. Okay.
Oh, dude, way to bring it all the way back
Checklist.
around.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Well done.
I don't know if my wife is listening to this, but hey, I need your help with another picture.
Yeah, dude, I really appreciate it, man. You're very knowledgeable. It's a pleasure having the community. Everybody speaks very highly of you.
Oh man, I just appreciate everyone just giving me a chance, and it's a lot of trust, right, with your health. So I just appreciate that. I appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Right on.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Till next time.